great for me this year, but I think I've had a lot of good finishes regardless. I think if I can just get a handle on that, I feel like I'll be very competitive, coming into next year. So I'm very optimistic about getting some more time off after this, working on the body, and then, try and hit 2026, in full stride, which would be nice.
Wish you the best this week. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
For months, Jason Day moved quietly, almost unnoticed, until this latest reveal ripped the silence straight open. Now insiders are scrambling, fans are stunned, and the whispers all sound the same. Something big just shifted. And today, I'll show you exactly what Day announced, and why it might be the most unexpected twist in the entire LIV golf saga. Ryder Reckoning. The Ryder Cup of 2025 had just wrapped its chaos-soaked spectacle at Bethpage Black, and the aftermath still clung to Jason Day like New York humidity. The scoreboard may have awarded Europe a razor-thin 14.5-13.5 win, but the emotional ledger told a different story, one where Day carried the invisible weight of a nation that didn't fully realize how much he held together. The narrator's tone sharpened with irony. Here was the veteran many fans had dismissed as too bruised, too past his prime, suddenly becoming the guy who kept the US Gladiators from fully crumbling.
It is on my mind, but not really. Obviously I just got to play well. If I don't play well, then I'm going home. There's no in between. As I was saying before, it's either I'm in East Lake or I'm out, and my playoffs are done. So that's the biggest thing for me, is just to try and get myself into position to be able to at least win here this week. Because thinking about just getting inside the top 30, it's never a good combination. You got to kind of go out there and try and win this week, and if it falls your way, then great. The win would take care of everything.
The tournament's opening days felt like an unhinged roller coaster. Big dips, violent turns, and one sickening loop when the US spiraled to an 8-4 deficit. And in the middle of it, Day moved like a quiet medic on a battlefield, patching leaks, steadying rookies, swallowing painkillers like breath mints. That hip tweak from the President's Cup returned at the worst possible moment, forcing him into discreet stretches and grimaces behind sunglasses. Social media roasted his floral shirts, calling them Coachella cosplay, while Rory McIlroy lobbed spicy banter on camera. Day absorbed every barb without flinching, all while delivering a steady, unflashy 2-2-0 record that somehow became the emotional fulcrum of the team. His standout act, the clutch 25-footer on the 18th during foursomes with Wyndham Clark, became the Cup's unofficial trailer moment. Slow-mo fist pump, the crowd roaring like an untrained dragon, and Day wearing the expression of a man who had just remembered he could be dangerous again. The moment ricocheted across the internet, turning him into an overnight symbol of quiet clutch, the veteran who still knew how to shut up a mob when the round demanded ruthlessness. But beneath that calm, the locker room whispers painted a far grittier portrait. Day's caddy, Carl Swatton, had smuggled in custom compression sleeves etched with his family's initials, micro-talismans meant to keep him grounded through the painkillers and pressure. Between sessions, he huddled with rookies like Akshay Bhatia, mentoring them with a stoic patience that suggested he remembered his own shaky beginnings too vividly. By the time Europe lifted the trophy, the crowd had already rewritten Day's narrative in their minds. He wasn't washed. He wasn't broken. He wasn't a floral shirt meme. He was something more dangerous. A veteran with fire quietly rekindling itself. And the conspiratorial energy around him hinted at something massive brewing. Something that would erupt days later in the form of that LIV golf revelation that lit up every feed from Augusta to Adelaide. LIV ghosting. The narrator relished the irony. After years of rumors, debates, and hypothetical trade machine fantasies, Jason Day's huge announcement about LIV golf turned out to be the plot twist nobody had scripted. It wasn't a defection. It wasn't a 9-figure paycheck. It wasn't even a bidding war. It was a rejection. A clean, unapologetic swipe left from the league infamous for handing out giant checks like confetti at a billionaire's birthday party. The world blinked. LIV ghosted Jason Day? The retelling became even juicier in hindsight. Day's confession, that the upstart tour never sent him a contract because he was deemed too risky, too injury-prone, too MRI-friendly, ricocheted across media channels with the comedic precision of a punchline delivered over slow jazz. Greg Norman, the Aussie titan supposedly eager to build an empire of misfit megastars, had apparently looked at Day's back spasms, vertigo spells, hip flare-ups, and decided he wasn't worth the insurance premiums. That irony became the script's beating heart. In a world where golfers were being scooped up like NFTs in 2022, one of the most marketable players of the 2010s couldn't even get a courtesy phone call. Insiders whispered even spicier add-ons. Day's camp had supposedly floated a 9-figure number, something north of $100 million, expecting a counter. The counter never came. LIV's silence became the gossip equivalent of a dramatic exit from a group chat. One anonymous agent framed it as the league's fear that Day's downtime would drag down team morale on Ripper GC, already playing host to personalities like Cam Smith and Mark Leishman. Another insider claimed Norman privately adored Day's game, but couldn't stomach betting the farm on someone whose medical history could double as a novella. Yet the scandal's most intoxicating twist wasn't the ghosting, it was Day's attitude toward it. He treated the non-offer like divine intervention, an excuse to stay committed to the PGA Tour grind. The narrator reveled in the dramatic irony. This snub, humiliating on paper, ended up granting Day the narrative armor of loyalty, resilience, and old-school purity. He looked more PGA than ever, more grounded, more noble even. Meanwhile, whispers of a quiet retention bonus from the PGA swirled in the shadows. Nothing confirmed, everything deliciously speculative. As the dust settled, the revelation transformed into a symbol. Jason Day, once the crown jewel of global golf, had managed the rarest trick in sports, turning rejection into a resurrection arc. The ghosting didn't diminish him. It humanized him, sharpened his edge, and primed the world to witness a comeback forged not in cash, but in stubborn, invigorated purpose. Phoenix rebuild. If the Ryder Cup was the fire and the LIV snub was the spark, then the months that followed became Jason Day's personal forge, a place where he remade himself from the inside out. By late November, whispers began swirling that Day had entered his rebirth era, an era dripping with self-awareness, discipline, and the quiet swagger of a man who had survived too many medical charts to remain fragile.
And that was a great venue. I love that golf course. The crowds always, every year, it seemed like it was always packed. So at some point, I hope we go back there, because I think it'd be nice to go back to some good memories, especially the golf course that I've enjoyed playing.
The narrator painted this phase with hyperbolic reverence. Day rising like a golf-obsessed phoenix wrapped in cryotherapy frost. The physical overhaul began the moment he stepped off the plane from New York. His hip required 2 weeks of enforced stillness, an almost comedic punishment for a man whose identity revolved around perfect torque and planted footing. But stillness turned into ritual. Ritual turned into innovation. His biohacking journey became instant rumor bait. Cryotherapy at 150 degrees Celsius, sensory deprivation recovery, low-inflammation diets borrowed from Tom Brady's playbook, it all fused into a system that seemed to churn out a sturdier, leaner, sharper Day than the public had seen since his 2015 peak. He joked privately that he felt 80% machine, but watchers didn't consider it a joke. Even his orthotics became mini legends, 3D printed marvels molded precisely to his reconstructed posture. But the real transformation wasn't cold, clinical, or mechanical. It was psychological. The Ryder Cup loss gutted him emotionally, but the pain carved new space inside him. Space for discipline, space for reflection, space for gratitude. Those gratitude grenades he scribbled in a journal every night, filling page after page with reminders of why he wanted to resurrect his career, rather than simply extend it. Insiders leaked details about a mysterious mentor guiding him through swing tweaks over Zoom. Whispers pointed toward Tiger Woods, which, confirmed or not, only amplified the aura. Whoever the mentor was, the tweaks worked. Day's strokes gained stats bouncing back to levels not seen in nearly a decade. His vertigo management became another point of fascination. After years of unpredictable spinning, the vestibular therapy finally granted him an 18-month reprieve. The world watched as Day moved with a steadier presence, a calmer posture, and a confidence that bordered on prophetic. His eyes looked clearer. His swing looked freer. His presence felt reborn. And yet the chaos never left. It simply evolved. Family commitments, travel schedules, tournament obligations, and private recovery rituals wove together into a paradoxical tapestry of serenity and frenzy. But in this storm, Day thrived. He looked less like a man fighting collapse and more like one quietly building something monumental. His fans, his critics, and even his skeptics could feel it. Jason Day wasn't clawing his way back. He was reinventing the entire blueprint. Major March. The narrator dove into the next chapter with theatrical gravitas, depicting Jason Day stepping into 2026 with the obsessive clarity of a man drawing battle lines. After the Ryder Cup's emotional bruises and the comedic twist of his LIV ghosting, Day appeared to reframe his entire existence around one concept: majors. Not tournaments. Not FedEx points. Majors. Full stop.
The way that the bunks worked, you could slide paper in, and I used to just lay there and just look at, like, I wrote down goals, I'd lay there and just look at the goals.
So you just put a sheet of goals above your bed?
Yeah, and I'd just lay there. Every time I went to bed, I'd just be looking at it, and then when I wake up, I'd look at it, so every time I'd see it.
His public appearances, filtered through podcasts and pressers, created the image of a player not simply planning a schedule, but drafting a prophecy. The coveted green jacket at Augusta became his white whale, a symbol of unfinished business that had nagged him since his last top 10 there in 2013. The narrator played into the melodrama, Day standing in his home simulator like a monk in a cathedral, swing plane diagrams flickering on screens, the faint smell of overdiagnosed determination in the air. The upgrades to his swing were whispered about like state secrets. Chris Como, the biomechanical oracle who had shaped champions before him, reportedly entered Day's world through quiet bi-weekly Zooms, dissecting film with clinical precision. At-home simulators and Green's nurseries became obsession chambers. The narrator mocked the intensity lovingly, calling it the midlife crisis golf lab, where once broken icons tried to bend time and physics back into alignment. But ambition came paired with cold math. Day was creeping toward 40, juggling 5 kids, managing old injuries like unwelcome house guests, and negotiating sponsorship purgatory as golf's politics shifted underfoot. So he crafted a future built not on volume, but on surgical scheduling. Fewer tournaments, more precision, family first, grind second. The narrator compared the plan to a marathon plotted by a tactician who knew exactly where the hills were and had no intention of dying on them. Behind the stoic plotting, rumors slipped through cracks. A President's Cup captaincy tease for 2029. A possible retreat from relentless travel. A memoir hiding in a hard drive somewhere, allegedly titled Fairway to Fatherhood. And of course, the potential contract renegotiation with the PGA Tour, dangling like a golden carrot behind merger fog. Through it all, Day's resolve radiated with a sharpened, almost serene intensity. He wasn't chasing glory, he was stalking it. Slow, measured, inevitable. Family forge. The narrator shifted gears into a more intimate, theatrical haze, painting the Day household as an ever-chaotic, ever-heartwarming forge from which Jason's resilience emerged. Ellie Harvey Day, the understated backbone of the operation, became the universe's quiet counterweight to the noise of professional golf. She wasn't simply a supportive spouse. She was the architect of an ecosystem that allowed Day's fragile, injury-prone body and perfectionist brain to function at all.
Stay out of the lava rock. From what I understand, I think there was like 200 unplayable rulings here last year, which is quite a lot. And once you go into the black stuff, it's difficult to try and get your golf ball back out. It kind of swallows it all up, and you can't go in there and try and retrieve it just because, you know, there's no way of hitting it out of there. So
the tone adopted a wink of mock tragedy. Ellie corralling 5 children while Jason rehabbed routines, sponsorship meetings dissolved, and the golf world spun with its predictable melodrama. Dash, the preteen phenom in waiting, swung drivers at absurd speeds, already prompting whispers about mini-tour sponsorships. Lucy sketched floral designs that somehow found their way into Jason's shirts, triggering both social media chaos and cult fandom. Arrow bounced between soccer trials and family lore. Ozzy broke Monopoly banks as if training for Wall Street. Baby Winnie waddled through it all, becoming the de facto emotional support mascot of the Day empire. The narrator leaned into comedic exaggeration. Ellie running No Phone Fridays, a weekly technological purge where the family transformed into a wholesome, unplugged sitcom, while Jason tried to hide the twitchy instinct to check swing videos. Paparazzi fabricated riffs when she skipped a wine tour, tabloids invented distance, and social media speculated wildly, only for Ellie and Jason to post sunset photos and vaporize the rumor mill overnight. Yet beneath the chaos and gossip beats the real story. Ellie serving as Jason's anchor during Vertigo episodes, injury spirals, and post-tournament come-downs. She even spearheaded a secret girls' golf initiative, Fairways for Her, quietly funded, quietly operated, and destined to become the legacy project no one saw coming. The narrator framed the family not as accessories to Jason's story, but as the furnace that forged his current resilience. The home was messy, loud, overwhelming, and exactly the grounding space that kept him from collapsing under the sport's relentless weight. Legacy echoes. In the final act, the narrator zoomed out, widening the lens to capture the sprawling, chaotic mythology of Jason Day, a career sculpted not just by titles and trophies, but by crises, whispers, mentorships, and the cultural roller coaster of modern golf. From Beaudesert's rough-edged beginnings to PGA superstardom, his path looked less like a clean resume and more like a tapestry stitched together with audacity, heartbreak, and a very Australian brand of stubborn hope. Post-Ryder Cup, Day's mentorship aura grew into something resembling folklore. Rising stars like Akshay Bhatia and Min Woo Lee sought his counsel through private groups and quiet exchanges. Older contemporaries, including the fallen giants of Tiger's generation, circled back for advice on fading techniques, swing recalibrations, and mental anchors. Rumors swirled that Day nearly collaborated with Adam Scott for a down-under clinic. Two Aussie icons plotting wisdom like ancient sages. Family remained part of the legacy too. His mother, Adie, who once pawned jewelry to send him to junior events, now proudly displayed trophies in a Sydney shrine while battling her own health setbacks. Their bond grew deeper, quieter, more sacred, yet the narrator saved the most cinematic twist for last: Day's shadow philanthropy. Millions funneled into medical funds for Indigenous children, inspired by a fleeting encounter years earlier. No press conferences, no branding, just pure, under-the-radar compassion. The kind that rewrites a legacy not through noise, but through intention. As the LIV ghosting revelation faded into the swirling chaos of golf's ongoing civil war, one truth crystallized. Jason Day wasn't chasing relevance. He was shaping something deeper, a guiding presence, a mentor figure, a quiet architect of golf's next generation. The narrator closed the chapter the way all great not FedEx points. Majors. Full stop. His public appearances, filtered through podcasts and pressers, created the image of a player not simply planning a schedule, but drafting a prophecy. The coveted green jacket at Augusta became his white whale, a symbol of unfinished business that had nagged him since his last top 10 there in 2013. The narrator played into the melodrama, Day standing in his home simulator like a monk in a cathedral, swing plane diagrams flickering on screen.